All right, welcome guys to our training class on using the MLS to enter your listing in the MLS. So we are going to use a sample property and I'm going to show you kind of how to work through. Unfortunately, without taking it live, I won't be able to show you the last few steps, but I am confident that you will be able to nail those on your own. So you get a new listing and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm logged into the MLS here. Please perk up online, or can I get a volunteer online to make sure that I can hear you guys? Can you guys speak up for me, somebody?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Excellent, awesome. Thank you so much, I appreciate it. Yes, I think I'm good, thank you. All right, so you're gonna log into your MLS when you've got your new listing, and we will have already pulled some of these reports, but what I would recommend you do, we're gonna do something you guys have heard me say before. We're gonna go find, hopefully, the house that we're listing is going to have been in the MLS previously. It will make your life so much easier. And yet there's going to be those great opportunities to list a home that maybe has not ever been listed because the homeowners have lived there for 30 years. So it's MLS, I would say, I think it was around for 13 years when I got in the business. So I think we're about 25 years out. That if something was sold prior to that, it's not going to show up in the MLS. Does that make sense? Okay, so and don't freak out. We're going to talk through each of the fields, and when we get there, it's going to just be where you're going to might have to do a little bit more legwork. But we're going to search for the property that we're looking to list. So I'm going to go ahead and enter a sample property. And I'm going to try to go find that old listing because it's going to have some valuable information to get me started. Okay, why don't we go with the most recent here? And then we're going to do, as I've said before, we're going to hit that print button at the bottom. From here, we're going to select the 360 property view with listing and then tax information selected on the right here. I recommend that you do that, print that to PDF. It's going to take just a second, and as always, it's going to want us to download it. I'm going to let that download on the side. Now up here, guys, we're going to come over here to this input button. Do you guys see at the very top in that blue bar? We're going to click on input. And at the input stage, you're going to have the choice to either add a new listing or edit an existing listing. You can always do a quick modify if you've already got a listing, you just need to make a change to it using the MLS. Today, again, we're learning how to enter a new listing. So I'm going to click on add new. I'm going to thank you. Can everybody see okay if I zoom in a little bit more there? All right, guys. And so we're going to click add new. At this point, you get to select what type of listing it is. Is it residential? Is it multifamily? Meaning 4 units or more, so a 4-plex or greater. Land, commercial, or rental. Today, we're looking at a residential listing. So you're going to click on residential. It's going to bring you to this page. From this page, you've got the ability to either fill it from a previous listing, which is what we're going to do today. Start with a blank property or fill from real less tax. I would suggest doing it from a previous listing. And then if it doesn't exist in the MLS, unfortunately, you're gonna have to check that second box and there'll be a lot more fields that you have to fill out yourself. But we're gonna fill from a previous listing. And the way that this works, guys, is we're gonna say, open up that MLS sheet that we pulled up before. Okay. This is why this is helpful, and this is what we're going to use this multiple times. You know, I love my paper. I often would print it out and have it in front of me because it was quicker. I'm going to use the MLS number here. I'm going to copy that over, and then in MLS, I'm going to place that here, and I'm going to click fill from. By doing that, it's going to come in here and populate a whole bunch of different fields for me automatically, okay? So I'm not going to skip too far ahead, but it's gone ahead and pre-populated some of the fields for me. And that's the benefit of filling from a previous listing. Now, we still have due diligence that we need to do, guys, to make sure that we are filling out the information properly, because some things do change. All right, at this point, we have to make a decision on what kind of status we're entering. This is all going to be a little bit dependent on where you are in your listing process. If you are, it's the day of listing, we're entering this for the first time, I would not recommend that. what I'm going to recommend is that we're going to work on this over time, especially for those first couple ones that we're doing, okay? So I highly recommend the week leading up, or maybe even 2 weeks leading up, you start on this, and at any time, you can click this button at the bottom. We all see here the bottom left, save as incomplete. So we're going to do that today, and I'll show you where to go work on it later then, so you can keep coming in and making changes to it, okay? But if we are going to just take the listing active, we would select active, even if we're just working from the state of saving it as incomplete, because we're going to just take it live the day of, okay? Another option would be to do pre-MLS, okay? And in that case, we are going to not show the property at all if we're putting it in as pre-MLS. We enter it as pre-MLS, we are able to market it as coming soon, and we're able to put a sign in the yard that says coming soon, collect those sign calls, and give people a heads up that it's coming, okay? And with pre-MLS, you are gonna go ahead and hit activate and hit submit property prior to your go live date. And then it will take it live in the MLS under the pre-MLS status, okay? And if we're doing pre-MLS, you're gonna enter your date in which it's actually gonna go live here in this box, okay? So for example, if we were saying, I'm gonna take my listing live on March 7th, I would put March 7th in here. And then I would go ahead and complete, and I could take it live at any time, and it's gonna show up as pre-MLS. A few notes on this, guys, when it comes to MLS. Now, this is an ever-changing thing. MLS is constantly changing on you. There's not always a ton of heads up when it's changing. And yet it is something that's a living thing that keeps changing on us. I have had agents in the past with pre-MLS. We were gonna go live on the 7th, and yet the carpet cleaners didn't get there like they were supposed to, or we got a little delayed and the seller's actually not ready to go. They were not able to change it on the 6th of March to keep it from going live on the 7th of March, okay? So you do need to have some like heads up in advance to be able to have enough time to get it changed and extended out so that it doesn't go live on the 7th. Does that make sense?
So how much of a heads up if they got it on the
Like, I've heard before 48 hours. Again, it's like one of those things that it's not something that's documented clearly anywhere, but I would give yourself 48, if not 72 hours where you're like, hey guys, we are for sure going on the 7th, right? And that is another thing with pre-MLS, you want to be checking in. The other thing about pre-MLS, and we'll talk about it, but I want to do it while we're on this stage, is you do have to have at least one photo of the property. It can be a photo taken with your cell phone. You also have to define a price when you're putting it in pre-MLS. Some people will put in the agent remarks, reserve the right to modify price prior to go live date. And that way they have the ability, if they're putting it in pre-MLS 2 weeks early or a week early, to make a modification just prior to going into the MLS or going live. All right, any questions there, guys? I'm gonna take a second to pause. I know that that is an important one that a lot of people will sometimes have questions on. Withdrawn. Okay, the question is, can you withdraw, take it back active again? So what I'm hearing Angie say is she saw something that was in pre-MLS, it went active, and then the agent immediately withdrew it. What I have a feeling happened, Angie, is the example I just gave, is that they weren't actually ready to take it live. And since they couldn't stop it in the system, they then pulled it out and withdrew it. The status withdrawal means that it is no longer able to be, it's no longer showable, and they're not showing it right now. It's still under exclusive right to sell with that agent though. So another agent can't come in and try to sell that house, okay? Because you have a withdrawal status and you have a temporary off the market status. Temporary off the market status means we're gonna put it back on. Typically withdraw means we're not putting it back on and no one else is allowed to come try to take this listing. And if they wanna buy it, they've gotta go through me, the agent. Does that make sense? But more than likely, that's what the story is. Anytime you come across that, guys, don't be afraid to pick up the phone and say, hey, listing agent, what's going on with this property? I see that you guys went active and then you said withdraw, and find out, especially if it's a property that's gonna meet the needs of your buyer. And in this low inventory market, you being aggressive, and it's not a bad thing to be aggressive. Y'all, if you wanna win, you gotta be aggressive, right? You gotta be comfortable with being kind, professional, and a little bit aggressive. Okay, any other questions when it comes to pre-MLS? You do have, and we've had, and I had an agent in the plaza that I said, reach out to Randy and see how he recommends that you handle this. But we did have an agent in the plaza who received a offer on a pre-MLS property sight unseen. So things like that do happen. When those things happen, call Randy so that he can walk you through how best to handle it if your clients do want to accept that and not end up going live. But no one can see the property, no price opinions, no nothing if you're in pre-MLS. It's very serious. There's $1,000 fine if you get caught with somebody walking through and showing the property. All right. How long? Nope. I've seen before where people have had things in pre-MLS for over a year, 2, yes. And I don't know if it's some strategy, you know, it'd be one of those things to call and say, what's the story here? Okay, I mean, it would be one way to collect some sign calls, right? Because, you know, the agent could then say, yeah, that's coming next year. Let me help you find another property. Who knows, right? There's all kinds of loopholes, guys, and there's plenty of agents that are willing to test the boundaries and figure out how to do it. And MLS is just trying to keep up with it. All right, some of you might wonder, and please perk up and speak up if you've got other questions, guys. Feel free to interrupt me, otherwise I'm going to keep talking. Incoming. You may say, what is the incoming status, Elizabeth? How is it different than active? So incoming is going to be where I will say, I'm going to take the property, it's going to go active on the 7th, so it's not going in pre-MLS, and yet my list date is going to be the 7th of March. So I'm not going to have a date here. It's going to be later where we fill out where the list date is. And if you have it as incoming and you hit submit, MLS is going to keep it in the background. They're not going to show it to the public until the 7th. And then the morning of the 7th, I want to say it's around 2 a.m., it's going to automatically publish it for you. Okay, some agents like to do it this way, and they just make sure they've got everything set up in the system correctly for that listing. And the day of go live, they wake up and magically the property is listed. So they've loaded all of their pictures and all of that ahead of time. Does that make sense?
What did you tend to do? I know there are reasons for each, but generally speaking, try to put everything in MLS, pre-MLS, or would you wait till it's active date?
Thank you for asking that question. To repeat it, the question is, what did you usually do? What I did was what my clients wanted me to do, because this was not a decision that the listing agent gets to make. It's a decision that the client gets to make. Okay, now do I get to guide them? Do I get to provide them pros and cons for how they proceed? Yes. I oftentimes, it was this, again, you hear me say this all the time, it's situational. Some clients would say, we really want, we hear people sell these houses off of coming soon and we want to drive traffic to our house. And so we want to do coming soon. And then you would put it in pre-MLS and you would do coming soon. So a lot of times it was the client's opinion. I will warn you about doing pre-MLS and coming soon. You will get a lot of phone calls from agents begging you to let them in early and to take it live early or something of that sort. So it does pick up that traffic. It also gives you the ability to collect some sign calls and generate some buzz ahead of time. Oftentimes I was a go live that same day, but my business processes often I ran things pretty tight where I was getting photos done 48 hours prior to going live because the photographer needed 24 hours to turn those photos around to me. And my people were like, I worked with a lot of families and they were like, Elizabeth, the less time we have to keep our house perfect, the better for us. So that's again, where you're talking them through what their options are. And you're saying, we could do coming soon, but I need to have, you know, the biggest benefit might be, I could do one photo, but if, you know, that's kind of the status there. You can kind of walk through. So I did a lot of like, go live just immediately and didn't mess with the coming soon. One thing about doing pre-MLS, guys, is you are giving everyone else an idea on the market that you're coming, and then they're able to use that for their pricing of their property that they're taking live. And we talked about it the other day when we're pricing, right? You look at what's active and how you fit in. You look at what pre-MLS and what's coming. Oh wow, okay, there's one that's coming on at $695. It's bigger, it's in a better location. Let me adjust what I was going to list mine at to fit in there better, right? So there's a little bit of strategy both ways. A lot of agents like the idea of coming soon in pre-MLS so that they can market it and collect those sign calls and use it on their social media, right? And that's like one more way that they get to present it early. Correct. And it's something you submit ahead of time, and then it again automatically just populates day of like your list date in the MLS. Okay, it's again another one that's hard to change. So if you say it's incoming and it's going to come on the 7th, it's not easy to go in and modify it now and say, oh, instead of the 7th, we want to go live on the 5th. So there are some challenges there. On your first couple listings, guys, I probably would not recommend trying to do an incoming. I think I would get ready and get used to the process before you do anything like that. All right, so this is our first page. We're going to select what it is that we're going to do. Let's say for this one, we're going to say we're going to just take it active and work on it until the day we're going to take it active. And so we've got things prepped. On this first screen, you do see that we've got a number of different things auto-populated for us. So it's a single family home. Is it attached? What they mean by attached, guys, is it attached to another home? There are some different developments in which the homes are attached. I'm not talking a duplex. It's weird, and it's not very common. 99% of the time, you're going to say no. Here, we're going to say what our price is, okay? So for our price, we're going to enter what we want it to show up as in the MLS. So $650 is what we're going to have this show up at in the MLS. We talked about this the other day, the low price. Again, I would recommend the low price is going to be where if you enter a low price, so for example, if I were to enter in here 600,000, when it goes live, if someone is searching between 500 and 600,000, this listing is going to show up for them with a list price of $650,000. It's a way to get the search engines to pick up your listing, even if it's a price above that, okay? I often would recommend you leave this for later and an ability to help drive some attention to it if you need to, instead of doing a price reduction, unless you are listed at 610 because your seller is insistent that they want to go on at 610, or if that's the best strategy because you think you can get that extra 10,000 for your client, then I would do it, okay? For now, we're not going to do that. Is it a manufactured home? Yes or no? You should know if you're listing a manufactured home, and then you would be putting what the manufactured type home would be. Area. This is auto-populated. We were laughing the other day on the plaza because Randy was kind enough to share with us some reports from the MLS, and it went over area. And I looked out and there's so many confused spaces. And I said, Randy, can we clarify? I don't think people know what they mean by area. So back in the day, many realtors, and you're going to hear some tenured realtors say, does anyone have anything in the 202 area? I need something 4-bed, 3-bath. And they looked at MLS on a map and had different areas in which they would refer to in the MLS. So if it doesn't auto-populate for you guys, my recommendation for this, so you know what area to go look for in the MLS, something recent that sold in that neighborhood, and then pull the area off of it. Let me switch back over to, this is where it's listed in area on the MLS. So you could go pull a different listing in the neighborhood and get that area, okay? For some reason, Alt-Tab is not working for me, people.
You think they might ever go away from that?
No, I don't think so. I mean, they've got full reports built around it and such. And it is sometimes a helpful way to search for things. Okay, you're going to have unit number. If it is something that has a unit number, if you've got a condo or something of the sort, you're going to put that here. And then we have state, easy enough, street address. So you're going to put the number, the street direction prefix would be where you're going to select your north, east, west. If you were to put your street here and say if it was West Jefferson, if somebody were to try to go in and search for it and search Jefferson, it's not going to come up unless they put that wild card in there. So that's why we want to make sure we're doing our street direction prefix here. Street type, same thing. Sometimes people are going to try to put Jefferson Street here and leave this blank. Everything that's yellow, by the way, guys, is going to be a required field. Our street, our county, our zip code, and then subdivision. I will warn you that I know in Brookside, I know up in some of the older, more urban areas, sometimes those subdivisions aren't always accurate. So I would recommend, if it hasn't been listed in a while, go look for another listing in that area and make sure that you're consistently using the correct subdivision. All right, next would be your legal description. This is where we're going to do a sanity check. Because you guys, we've all talked about this. Some agents are not the professionals that you are, right? And so they may not have completed this properly. And you do not want to depend on how they filled it out on some of these things that are very important. Because it's not great whenever you're like, well, I don't know, that's what the last person had it as. So where you're going to go verify this is you're going to go to that tax information, and under legal description, you have tax legal description. Looks like she did have it correct. Warren add lot A. She'll just copy and paste that directly here. This tax ID is also on this tax information when we went and pulled that 360 report with the property and then the tax info. And that is what this number up here is. Okay. You can also search it by clicking on this hyperlink if you need to. One of the things I highly recommend on the map here on the right, always check to make sure the property is actually showing up correctly on the map. The way that I like to do that is to go ahead and say update, oh, they change it every time, plot manually. You guys see that hyperlink that I'm on right now? We're gonna click plot manually. We're gonna select that. It's gonna pull up the property. You can then zoom in and say, is this correct? Yes. Especially you all that are working in Overland Park, Lenexa, someplace where things like new construction, maybe a house that the last time it sold was a new construction property. Can't tell you the number of times those points are not accurate. And what happens is if you don't have the correct address or the correct location, and let's say that we had it set here, or maybe way over on the other side of the state line, when someone does the directions, it's going to do the directions to this pinpoint. Anywhere that picks it up to show people the map view, it's going to show them the wrong place. Okay. So it's really important that you take the time to go in and make sure that it's correct. And if you need to replot it, it's just dragging and dropping and clicking done. All right. Next, we're going to go through here and bedrooms, bathrooms. Again, full bathrooms are going to be anything that has a shower or a bathtub, a way to bathe. Okay. It doesn't have to have both, just one. So that makes it a full bath. Your half bath is going to be anything that's just a sink and a toilet. Okay, that will count as a half bath. If you have 2 or 3 half baths, then you're going to enter here the number 2 or 3 for how many half bathrooms. And the way that that'll show up in the MLS is if you would have 3.2, meaning 3 full baths and 2 half baths. That all makes sense? All right. Age restriction would mean, is it a area in which like 55 and older? There are some communities that can have age restrictions there. Cool. Maintenance provided. We're going to say no, there's not maintenance provided. If it was yes, you would say yes, and then you're going to select what maintenance is provided by the HOA. Okay. And that's different than amenities, right? Because sometimes you're going to have amenities in which a homeowner could get the pool member, get access to the pool, but they're going to pay more. It doesn't come with their HOA dues. This is what's provided by their HOA dues. Next, this is a fun one. You're going to look at above grade finished square foot. This is another time that we're going to check the work of the previous agent if we are copying. So 3805 square feet. We're going to go back to our tax record. Super helpful, right? So we're on this sheet that we pulled here. We're going to scan down. And then it's showing gross area of 4617. That would be the entire property, guys. What we want to look for is above grade square foot, which is 3250. So she had it listed as a little bit higher than that. The times in which you're going to verify this is if we're not going to have the comma in there. If this homeowner in an addition, then that may not be included in here. So the last time they sold, and they said, well, Elizabeth, we did that new addition on the back of the house, that new family room, or we enclosed a screened-in porch. That would be additional that you would want to add to what's on the tax record. Does that make sense?
And you don't have to go to the.
Correct, because they'll update it with the sale. Is my knowledge, my understanding. The question was, do you need to go to the county and change me that? My understanding is the county will go off of it when it sells. Use the MLS information. Now, where? What? Correct. Correct. Yep, and they're going to add any basement finish here in the below grade finish. Okay. And again, that is if someone finished a basement or an additional part of the basement, you're going to put that here. Now, some of you might say, where am I going to get that information? You do have to say what your source is for the square footage, and you have some choices here. You can say appraiser. Because if an appraisal shows that that's what the square footage is, you can use that square footage and you would select appraiser. You can say public records, which would be if you're pulling it off of the tax record. Okay, you're going to select public records. If it's the homeowner that is telling you that's what the square footage is, you're going to select owner in the who gave you that number. Okay. Correct. Public, if it's from that where we just pulled it from, it's going to be public. Yeah. Yes, and or you can measure it yourself, and then you can put agent, and then oftentimes you're going to see in additional showing remarks where a listing agent is going to say buyer's agent and buyer are responsible for their own verifying measurements and square footage to protect yourself. So you're not telling someone, yes, this house has got 1,200 square feet finished in the basement, and then they come back and want to get upset with you because it's not accurate. Okay. Where you're finding in that on the MLS, where you're finding your basement square footage, you've got basement square footage here. And then if it had been defined previously that there was finished basement space, you're going to have here unfinished, and then more information on what was finished there. Does that make sense of where we can go kind of get some information on that? Okay, now I'm back to being able to do.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Would you ever like say like they enclose the sunroom? Would you ever like go out there and measure and then find out for yourself the square footage if you can't find it anywhere else, or no?
Yes, 100%, because we want to include that, guys. So yes, you would go and do include it, and I would just put in your notes that the buyer and buyer's agent are responsible for verifying measurements themselves. But yep, that's exactly how you do it. Correct. So, and otherwise it yells at you when you go to hit submit. Okay. If you do mess anything up or leave anything blank, when you go to try to hit submit property, it's going to go and it'll have a red flag up here at the top that you can click through, and it'll show you where you messed up and you need to include something. So age description, I'm going to put other here then, even though we don't have anything saying anything listed for below grade finish. This is wonderful. You don't have to be required to have the square footage included. It's extremely helpful. Age description. So here you are required to enter this, and we're going to say 100 years or more for this property. You just sometimes have to do some math. Year built is always helpful. It's not required, but it's helpful to have that in there. You again can pull that off of our tax record. It's going to show here year built as 1912. Sound good? All right. Lot size or lot dimensions, if you wanted to put in there that it was X by X, you could. A lot of times people are going to just put lot size. I'm going to show you here where that comes from. The lot size on the tax record is going to be 0.308. You see that here at the bottom, or lot square footage. You could do 13. I'm going to probably do the 13,829. You guys know I'm an exact person, so here we go. And then lot size source, we're going to say public record. Is there a basement? Yes or no? So if it's a crawl space or a slab, you're going to say no. Central air conditioning, yes. Fireplace, yes. Garage, yes. If there's not, you're going to obviously put no. You are then able to specify how many fireplaces there are and how many garage spaces there are. I will warn you, if it's a fireplace in an unfinished basement that was there from years ago, I mean, yes, is it technically a fireplace? I probably would not include that as a fireplace kind of a thing. Okay, guys. These fields here, property conditions, model not for sale, is what a agent that would be doing a development would put in there so that they could have the model so people would know they could come look at it. And yet it would be clear that that one was not for sale. You would also have, if it's under construction or never occupied, you check those boxes here. On the right, estimated date, completion days. This is again for new construction. You only use this if it's a brand new house and it's being built. So 0 to 45 days until it's completed, 46 to 90, and so on. All right, any questions there, guys? Move on to the general tab. Here in the general tab, you're going to select your schools across the top. And if we've talked about this previously, if you do not put anything, you see that middle school, elementary school, middle school, and high school are not required. If you do not put anything and somebody goes in and is trying to search for that school and is using that as for search criteria, your listing will not show up. So I do encourage you to include the school districts. I also encourage you, this is one that is incredibly important, that you do go check the work of the previous agent. And they may not have it wrong. A couple examples, Park Hill School District has recently changed some of their boundary lines. And so you do not want to list that this house is a part of Park Hill South if it's actually not a part of Park Hill South, or it's a part of a certain middle school if that's changed. It does not take you long to get on the Google and type in school district boundary line finder. Sometimes you do have to type in, you have to look at the address and do a little research and zoom in yourself, but it is well worth getting this correct. A lot of times too, your homeowner can help point you in the right direction, but it's definitely worthwhile to go do your homework and make sure you've got that completed with accurate information. All right, your different architectural frame. This is the type of home that you've got. So you collect a colonial, an A-frame. I think you guys hopefully got to attend Doug's class yesterday. He's going to go over a lot of those different kind of pieces on what type of home it is. If you're not sure, feel free to reach out and ask. I'm happy to give you my best guess. Dining room, again, you see these are not required. Dining area, not required, and yet sometimes people do like to include what different ones there are, just in the fact that it helps people understand what the setup is. So you can choose up to 4 of those. Utility room. Okay, you guys are like, so is this just telling me where the furnace, AC, hot water heater is? No. Utility room is actually meaning where is the laundry at? Okay, you can select up to 2 on this. This is saying electric, gas on your dryer. But what I would highly recommend is that you're going to do the one that is most marketable, right, for your property. Those are going to be the ones that you want to do. And second level or bedroom level, if that's on here, and it's a laundry room, we're going to select that it's a laundry room and that it's bedroom level. Okay, makes sense there. We're just saying where it is and what best describes it and is the most marketable for the property. For your garage, here you're going to select if it is, and you've got 5 different things that you can select, but to describe your garage. So it's an attached, this one happens to be in the basement. And then if it has a shared drive, you'd be marking that. Now, if you ever have a garage, guys, where you might have shown a property before, where you say, it said that it was a 2-car garage, and I got there and there was only 1 car for 1 garage door. What might be the case is when you can pull 2 cars into a garage and park them front to back, that's called tandem. And that's what this last selection is. If you do not have a garage, and yet you have off-street parking, meaning you have a driveway where someone can park a vehicle off the street, then you want to make sure that you select off-street parking. If it's secured because it has a gate across the driveway, you would say it's secured. Some of that too is like with a condo. If it's in a garage that has a gate on it, that would make a difference. Again, you're going to select what is applicable for this property. Shared drive, meaning in some parts of town, 2 houses will share a driveway. So you're going to want to make sure to check that. And or be strategic. This is not lying. I do know that there are times where agents will not select things like shared drive because they want someone to get there, fall in love with the house, and then see that they would be sharing the driveway with another homeowner. And at that point are hopeful that the house has won them over instead of them being like, nah, it's got a shared drive. Let's count it out. And remember, everything you're selecting on here, if someone has gone in their search criteria and said, no, don't show me shared driveways, then your property would not show up if people are excluding shared driveways. Does that make sense? Or detached garages or anything of that sort. Your roof composition or what type of material that roof is. And then here you can select what type of flooring you've got. So if you've got carpet and tile and wood floors in there, you're going to go through and select your materials there. Lake description. This is going to be if your property sits on a lake or in a community that has a lake in it. like Weatherby Lake, Lake Tapawingo, those kinds of things. And you're going to just state what amenities or what comes with that lake, and including whether or not it's second tier or third tier lakefront, those kinds of things. Continuing on, and again, please speak up if you got any questions, guys. We have floor plan. So a lot of times when you create your search, we've talked about this before, some people will exclude split levels. Some people will say, I only want to see 2-story houses, and we're looking for a 2-story. In this case, this property is a 3-story, so you're always trying to be strategic to make sure that you're covering all your bases. So although this is a 3-story home, I'm going to select 2-story as well. Because if someone has put in that they're looking for a 2-story, meaning all the bedrooms are on the second level because they do not want to see any that have the bedrooms on the first floor, I want to make sure my house gets picked up in the search. Okay. And if nobody has selected floor plan, my house is going to show up. But for those agents that get really detailed for their people, like maybe it's a ranch that they're looking for, I want to make sure that I'm selecting the proper boxes there. All right, we've got again basement, where you're going to just state whether or not it's a crawl space, if it's a full basement. And so a full basement meaning you've got a full basement down there. There are no windows. There's not any speck of light in the basement. That means it's a full basement. If it's a described as a daylight basement, that means that you do not have a door allowing you to exit the basement, and yet you do have windows and there is some daylight that comes through. A walk up basement means you do have a door, you open that door, and you have any number of steps up to the ground level on the outside. Walk out means you literally open the door and you walk and there are no stairs, you're walking into the backyard. Okay. Other things to note here, an egress window is going to be a window in which a fireman can get in and out with all of their gear on. Oftentimes those are going to be the ones that you see that have window wells. And so it may not be pretty, and yet that makes it's very marketable, right? You're going to select things like that and stubbed for bath, even if your basement is unfinished, because it does make your basement more marketable. So if you've got a home which is an unfinished basement, but there is an egress window and it's stubbed for a bath, you would want to select that so that somebody knows and can easily look in the MLS. Oh, it's stubbed somewhere down here for a toilet and a shower. It drives the cost down and makes it easier for someone to be finishable, makes the property more marketable. Okay, other things on basement to make sure to include. You've got on here if there's a radon mitigation system. These are new things that they've added. And again, you can choose to run your business and do business the way that you'd like to do it. Some people, again, if they had a crawl space or a slab, may elect to get creative and not select those things that they're not excluded. I don't think it's a good way to do business. You're going to get your sellers' hopes up because they're going to have somebody come look at a property and they're going to be opening every closet door and going, where's the base? Oh, there is no basement. This is a non-negotiable. We do not want to buy a house without a basement. Okay. Fireplaces, you're just denoting where those fireplaces are and then any of the information about the fireplace, whether it's wood burning or if it's got gas logs or gas starter kind of a thing. Other rooms, here you've got the ability to note if there's other rooms included in the home and specified, whether it's a study, an exercise room, main floor bedroom. Sometimes that's beneficial for people that have family members that can't go up and down the stairs, library, all of those things. You're going to select those here. Note that not, and you see this when you're seeing all these fields on the MLS listing. Do you have to check every box? Do you have to add everything? No. So don't freak out if that's the case. Here is the next field is construction, and that is what is the property made out of? If it's all brick, you're going to select all bricks. Asbestos siding is a siding that was used back in the day. You may not know that your listing has asbestos siding. Block, brick and frame, brick veneer is where it's not actually made of brick. There's actually stuff behind it. A lot of times, guys, you're not going to know what material it is, and it's okay for you to just say. Let's see if we can figure out who needs to be muted. It's a fun game. There we go. Okay. Any questions on that? On any specifics? Okay. Lot description. This is a fun one, guys. This is where you're going to describe, obviously, the lot the property sits on. Most of the time, you're going to say maybe a city lot if there's nothing special. If it's a corner lot, you want to make sure to call that out. You can pick up to 4. Cul-de-sac, is that marketable about a property? Will people pay more for it to sit in the cul-de-sac instead of where you're going to get less traffic and or some basketball games can occur? And then if it's adjoining any green space or a golf course, those kinds of things. If it's treed, like again, this is an opportunity for you to point out things that are beneficial about the property. All right, office. This is a fun one. We're moving on to where we're going to select our information as the listing agent. So if this is blank, then you're going to be able to search for it by clicking confirm. And I apologize. Let me see. I can see if I can look it up here. Okay, you used to be able to go in and look it up there. Let's see. Let's use Connor. Now you can just type in. Let's say if we were going to say that Connor. I don't know why I was going to use Connor. I know.
I think it's probably because you were putting ER instead of OR.
Ah, okay. Good call, Connor. I said ER instead of OR. And Connor's like, I'll go on this listing. 650 listing. I'll take it. So you can just type in the agent's name there and then confirm it if you'd like, and it's going to populate their information. Okay, Connor, let's see if I can take you off. Yeah, there we go. So it should populate your information. You can make sure that that's correct. If you need to make any changes to what your email address is going to be on there, you just email MLS and they will change that for you. Here we are going to enter what the showing company phone number is. Man, I used to have this memorized. I'm going to do this so I can remember to go back and change it. But you're entering the number for showing time. Does that make sense? Your list date. This is the date that your listing starts. Okay. Again, MLS activate for, that's going to be for an incoming listing. You're going to put that date here. So if we took the listing and filled out the paperwork on the 1st of March, we're going to enter that here. And then our expiration date would be the expiration date of the listing.
Okay, so you are showing us out as active.
Yep.
So your list date, if today was, you're saying your active date is 21, you're gonna put it today's date anywhere.
Your active date is the date, yes, but if you're doing incoming is where you need to put that.
Right, but you're not, you're doing active, but you're saving this information, so your list date is.
The 7th is the date that, yes, the 7th is the date that we listed. Okay. Earnest is going to be who's holding the earnest deposit. So that is the title company you and the seller are working with for the earnest. And again, I'm going to put a plug in for Platinum Title. They are amazing to work with. So you're going to enter Platinum Title there, and that lets the other agent know who to make it out to. This is where we're going to put in what the compensation is for the listing. So we're going to say 0, 3, 3, which is standard. And then you're going to say whether or not it's based on the net sales price or the gross sales price. Gross sales price means the sale price of the house. If there's any closing costs paid, or let's say $10,000 were given towards putting a new roof on, we're going to pay commission on the sale price. If it's net, so let's say that somebody came in and wrote it for $650, but we paid $5,000 in closing costs, and it was based on net. We take the $650 minus the $5,000 in closing costs, and our net would be $645, and that's what our commission would be based on. You're just communicating to the other agent how commission is paid, so it's clear to everybody. Again, most of the time we're going to select gross sales price. And our drop down here, you're going to say percentage and percentage. If it was a fixed amount, sometimes if you list a small property is where you see it most commonly. There might be, instead of it being 3% because it's only a $50,000 listing, it would be that they're going to pay $1,000 in commission. And so here you're going to select dollar amount instead of percentage. Does that make sense? Sub-agency compensation, and that's why we're going to say 0. So, and then buyer comp is for buyer agency compensation, so we're representing the buyer. Anytime you have questions, guys, too, there are the little, it's super helpful, the little arrows or question marks to the right.
So the transaction and the buyer, you're putting both because you don't know what that other person might be.
Correct.
So truthfully, you're not stating what yours is, you're only stating what.
Correct. And if we end up being a transaction broker, then that would be that you're collecting that 3%, right?
Clearly, lots of people don't know what it is. I've seen it. Like. sell,
Correct.
buy, or- Oh.
Well, and I would print that to PDF as you made your offer and be like, oh, am I not getting paid? No. Yes, no, that you're very, very correct. And if you want to double check, triple check that, I would suggest it. All right, at the bottom, virtual office, IDX website, display listing, yes. Display address, yes. And then you have your showing selection of how your showing instructions. You can only select 3. And this is again where we're just trying to communicate how best to represent what the ability is to show the property. So typically we're going to say, if the property is vacant, call co-op or schedule through co-op is a very common one. You want to put on here what type of access. So if it's a combo box, you put combo box. I like to put iBox so that an agent knows they need an iBox to show it. And then I would put, if it's this one's vacant, I'm going to select vacant so they know that it's vacant and easy to show. But there's obviously plenty of other different options.
So back to IDX. So how do you know which sites that goes to? Is MLS connected or you're connected?
MLS is connected to all the different IDX sites. Okay, you don't have to select, but here you're going to say what your possession is. This one, because it's marketable to the property, somebody could take possession of it immediately. If they wanted to give me cash and close on it the next day, you could have possession immediately. Otherwise, typically people are going to put negotiable or subject to a lease if it's something that's got tenants in it. Listing type, it's an exclusive right to sell because I have an exclusive right to sell agreement. Listing capacity, designated agent. This is where you're selecting how you are representing the client, which is going to be in that exclusive right to sell. For each of you, it should typically be exclusive right to sell and then designated agent. All right, continuing on into rooms. This is something that was used quite a bit previously. And again, this is not adding up the square footage to go anywhere. You do have to have the number of bedrooms match up with the number of bedrooms that are in the MLS, like where you listed it before. You'll get an error when you hit submit. Okay. And so I think we're missing one here. It's missing the 5th bedroom. You don't have to see how these are not required. You don't have to fill out all of these other things. And you can if you'd like, and select what type of flooring and such. This is where people are going to go out and measure if you don't have the measurements yourself to be able to add. Sometimes it's a helpful thing to have on a listing so people see, oh, that secondary bedroom is huge. It's a 12 by 14. Or again, is it marketable for your property? If you've got 9 by 9 bedrooms, maybe we don't draw attention to that. Okay, is it in a floodplain? If you don't know, put unknown. Do not select no if you do not know for a fact. You can look up on floodplains, but a lot of people will list unknown. If you have, these are for your insulation factors, are not things that are often filled out. A lot of times in new construction, you might see that, but otherwise on resale, not many people include it. For inspection exclusions, what that means is on the seller's disclosure, are the sellers saying that there's anything that they are not going to make repairs to, they're excluding. So that page of the seller's disclosure, a homeowner can list out every different piece, you know, that page I'm talking about that you have where a homeowner is going to put either NA for not applicable, you got me, or NS for not staying, or OS for operating and staying, or EX, which it's staying with the property, but the seller is excluding it from repairs after inspections. So that's what they mean by exclusions. Here, I would recommend if your seller is excluding and they selected anything as EX on that page of the seller's disclosure, that you say yes, and then you put here see seller disclosure. So that you're pointing them in the direction where they can go find that information. If you were to offer a warranty, not many people would complete this, but that would be where you could list if you had a warranty that you were providing proactively from the seller. And then ownership. So you've got estate or trust is if you are selling an estate. That means you literally are selling an estate and working with an estate company. Investor would be if it's an investor that owns the property. Local or private is the other one that's often used. And that would just be that it's a homeowner that lives there and owns it. Or it was a, you know, kind of, does that make sense? So this is an investor. We're going to select investor. And then we have your heating that you can select. Note that you can select multiple forms of heating. If a house has central gas and a boiler system, you can select both. Hot water would be like if it's radiant heat kind of a thing, or radiant floors, you would be able to select that. One other thing that I would recommend you look for here is your zoned heating and cooling. So that's always something that you want to make sure you're pointing out if your property has it. Cooling, central electric, or whatever that might be. And again, zoned if it's zoned. And then water is just the source for the water. City or a well is commonly selected here. Sewer, this is if you've got a sewer system or a septic system, and you've got abilities to call out specific things on those. The rest of this are things that would be specific to the property, are not always things that you would want to call out. So again, you don't have to check every box. A lot of times agents just focus in on what's the yellow. So don't feel like you have to go through and check every box and know the answer to everything. Again, I don't see much on warranty. A lot of times it's a new construction thing. And then a same thing with your exterior. If it has a hot tub or stuff that's staying, or an outdoor kitchen and you want to use that as a way to market it, select it. Interior finishes, again, you're going to go through and select anything that is marketable about the property. And then if you've got something that has accessibility for those with special needs, this would be where you're going to select that. Telecom, I'm going to just unselect anything there. Pool, above ground, and ground. As you can see, there's a million different things that you can select here, guys. We talked earlier about HOA provided and amenities. And let me explain to what the difference is. HOA dues include, that means if they pay $400 a month to the HOA, or a year to the HOA, and they get access to the pool, you're going to include that here. If they are, it's a condo and they pay $600 a month to the condo for their monthly HOA dues, you're going to select that, and then you're going to say it includes their gas, their electricity, their water, trash pickup. Amenities, the difference there are amenities, because you see that some of them are doubled up, but amenities are going to be things that they have access to, but they might have to pay more for. Okay, see how it's available association amenities. You've got your appliances. Most of the time, the way that it's been for tenured agents, the appliances are only the ones that are staying with the property. So if there's a refrigerator that is not staying with the property, I plugged it, guys, my apologies. If it's something that is not staying with the property, you wouldn't check that box. Deck, patio, porch, obviously I think that's pretty self-explanatory. You're going to select which ones are applicable to the property. And then under security features, again, a place you want to double check work if there's an old security system that's no longer in place. Otherwise, you would select what those are here. You've got outbuildings for any barns or those kinds of things that you could include here. There's a lot of features on here now, guys, that they didn't used to include. Look at them gathering all the data, MLS, all the data. And then, correct, exactly. All right, and then if you have a mobile home, you're gonna make that note down here at the bottom. All right, are you guys hanging in there okay? Do we have any questions? This is again why we would like take it in bite-sized pieces, right? Where sometimes maybe we come work on it and we're going to save it down here at the bottom as incomplete and come back to it later. Association, this is where you're going to enter your homes association. Okay, so yes, and then the name of the homes association if it exists. This one actually does not have a homes association. There are no homeowners association fees. If there were, you're going to enter the dollar amount here, and then you're going to select, are those annual, monthly, quarterly, semi-annual? Again, I don't have any, so say none. Special documents required. Any document HOA require members to have. I don't know what that means. No, I would say if you're working with a condo or association or something, that's where it might be the case. All right, taxes, guys. This is an opportunity for us again to venture over to that tax record. And let me show you where we're going to find, Elizabeth, where we're going to find that. Okay, our tax amount, and it looks like it's going to go across. So taxes here are $665.41. They should be in these columns, guys. This is like a print error. So this is where it's failed us. 6541. Look how much they've gone up. Okay, and we've talked about this before. This is when they thought the value of the house was 420,000. So the taxes are going to actually be quite a bit more if it sells for 650 because the county is going to record the value being at 650 now instead of the 420. You can put it in as what it is currently. Special taxes are going to be if there are any assessments because they put in new curbs, or if there's any assessments that are like special that have happened. Okay, that's where you would put special assessments.
So that be on the tax sheet, how do you find that out?
It used to be on the tax sheet. So this is one, guys, I don't know. It used to say special if there was a special one.
Maybe it would say that if there was.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I apologize, guys. And then tax abatement. Tax abatement is going to be in some parts of urban, a lot of times in urban areas, they might do tax abatement for 10 years or 15 years on a property to encourage people to move into that area. So this one does not have tax abatement. Typically, your homeowners are going to know if there's a tax abatement on the property. All right, you've got the ability to note if there's any special listing conditions. This typically is going to be where if it's a foreclosure, they're going to put on here that it's HUD owned, an REO or something of that sort, to like so that you know that it is special owned, probate listing, that kind of a thing. All right, will sell, sticking to those yellow boxes. What it means by will sell is this homeowner will accept or can sell it this way. You guys, we've talked about this before, that if there is a foreclosure property or there's a property that's in bad condition, it may only have cash and conventional selected because there's foundational issues or there's a lot of safety issues and that there's no way for that to get approved with an FHA loan. Okay, and so it's just your way of communicating what this property can sell at with the ability of the seller. Okay, because even if your buyer is saying, but that's okay, it's FHA, we'll pay for it, the seller has the right to say, no, we're not dealing, I'm not going down that path. And just because they have something selected does not mean that they have to sell it that way.
Yeah, or that it'll be.
Correct. Also, there is, this is where you're going to put like lease purchase and those things, but oftentimes people will select cash, conventional, FHA, VA. It's 100% up to your seller in the situation. Green environment, an opportunity to put everything on it that's green. And then this is sometimes the most dreaded page. Now, here you're going to enter, just because it's the part where you get to become a storyteller or and do your marketing. So public remarks, guys, is going to be what you're going to put on the property to describe it for what's going to show up to the public. Okay. We used to be limited to only a certain number of characteristics. Now, as you can see, you get 20 or 2,000 characters. So it's a little less, but a lot of times what I would recommend when you're writing your remarks is go in and write your remarks and then go back and just edit it and tweak it. That used to be a game because you had to get it down underneath a certain number of characters. But that would be what I would recommend. If you're wanting to include things and highlight things about the property, you do not need to write a novel. And I think the less you write, the better chance you have of people actually reading it. But that's where you're going to just describe that all appliances stay, brand new roof, those kinds of things. Best suggestion here, go read the remarks of other listings and get an idea of ones that you feel are compelling and such, and use that as a guiding point post. For your directions, I oftentimes would recommend that you're going to go in and start from a main intersection or someplace that most people will know what that is. This is to help agents find the property or to help buyers find the property. Oftentimes, I would say things like start at Ward Parkway and 75th Street, go east, and then on 75th Street, okay? Take a left or go north, parentheses left, on Jefferson Street, houses on the right. I might also do it from another common intersection. So I might say from Warnell and Gregory, head west on Gregory, and then turn south on Jefferson, left, and then arrive at home on the left. Does that make sense? You're trying to help describe to them which direction to go. If you're just saying things like at 75th and Ward Parkway, go left. It's hard depending on what direction the person was standing in. I know I'm freaking you out. I'm sorry, I'm tripping over the cord again today, and it's becoming distracting because I've unplugged it twice. Okay, guys, any questions on private remarks? So the private remarks is going to be where you put stuff that only the agent can see. This might be where you're going to put their ideal closing date. If we happen to get multiple offers, this is how we plan to do those things, okay? So this is where you're going to put just stuff for the agent to see. You can go in and modify this after it goes live, and oftentimes you will see that agents do that. Note as a buyer's agent to keep checking in and looking at it if you're wanting to see what updates are, but this is a communication between you and the listing agent or buyer's agents. Okay, under the virtual tour area, if you are paying for a virtual tour with your photographer, they've got a place for you to put a branded one and an unbranded one. Note that if you want it to be syndicated out, it has to be unbranded, because they aren't going to syndicate out one that's got your branding all over it. Does that make sense? That means it like won't go out to realtor.com if you put it in the branded one. Yeah, the question was, how much does it cost for a virtual tour for your photographer? It depends on the photographer. Some of them will include it at no additional cost. And that could be a virtual tour where it's like a slideshow, or it could be a video. Some of them that are doing videos, I've seen it be anywhere from, $100 to $200, $200 more. All right. That's also where you're going to put, if you do like a Matterport, you're going to put that in that virtual tour spot. Okay. And if you are doing a Matterport or something of that sort, and you're paying that extra money, because a Matterport, I want to say, is an extra $200 or something by square footage. Be sure to call it out in your public remarks. Check out the 3D virtual tour so that it makes sure people are knowing to go click on the virtual tour, and that it's not just a slideshow, that it's something cool. Okay, guys, so here I promised you I'll show you where you can save it so that you can go back and work on it again. So you're going to hit save as incomplete. And then here you're able to go in and add and edit your photos. So good, they've had changed that. So you can do it ahead of time and have all your photos loaded up in there. You don't have to wait till go live date. I still highly recommend that you put them in order ahead of time. It makes it so much easier than trying to move them around on here. I guess we could do a little bit of that, right? Where we could go. Where did we find them yesterday, guys? Do you remember? Here we go. It's going to be important, guys, on what size they are. So I guess that's at 1 second to tell you, and I should have told you we were talking about photos yesterday. The system will reject them if they're too big or if they're not the right size. If you're hiring a professional photographer, they should be giving them to you in that size, and they will note probably this is a website size and this is a high resolution size. You're going to use a high resolution for your marketing that you're printing out, and you're going to use your website ones because those should load in really smoothly to the property. Okay, so if you're not putting them in order like we talked about yesterday, remember how we took the time to order these? Then you're on here trying to do it like this and move it around. So right, like there's methods to my madness where you're like, okay, wait a minute. Let's do this. That's why I say it's easier. If you do it on here, you can. And then you would say certify and save. Any questions? You do have like an unlimited, you have 99 photos that you can upload these days, guys. I'll give you my unfiltered opinion on this. Don't upload 99 photos, okay? And like you guys have seen those listings where they're including like every possible thing in the nearby area. Yes, yes. Okay, and then you've got where you can add or edit your supplements. That's where you're going to upload your seller's disclosure. So here you can say disclosure packet 5700. You're going to go to your computer and choose that. Let's see if I look at that disclosure packet. I'm just using and click upload and then hit save. People are going to be so confused when I take this listing live and they're like, wait a minute, isn't that the last house she sold? All right, you also have the ability to click here and manage your showing time. So it's going to take you into showing time so that you can set up your showing instructions, okay, which is another day, another training. Does that make sense? Okay, now you're like, Elizabeth, this is great. Look, you have so much time, guys. The more you can get done, the more you can be prepared for day of go live, the more I suggest you, I can't beg you enough. Please do not wait to you guys are very optimistic people. I'm very optimistic. It bites me a lot of times, but I would highly recommend that you don't say, oh, no big deal. I got plenty of time on Thursday when I'm taking that live to enter all this, or to add the photos, or to add the seller's disclosure. No, the day of, there are going to be crazy things that are coming at you from your sellers that are saying, oh my gosh, I completely forgot that today was trash day and there's, you know, trash cans all over. Don't wait till the last minute. Please, please, please go in and get all of this added as much in advance, partly too, as new agents, so that you can run it by us, by me, and say, hey, can you take a look at this? Or by your coach, can you take a look at this, so that you can make sure that it's correct. All right, so I could go ahead and go back to editing here by clicking continue editing. But let's say that it's been 2 days and I've been a really great, wonderful professional agent, and I've been entering this weeks in advance. When I want to go in and modify that, you're going to be on your dashboard, you're going to click input again, and then you can select it from this drop-down menu. So here's my work in progress on the drop-down menu. When I select it, it'll open it up, and I have the ability, and I come to this screen and I have the ability to click back on residential, and it allows me to go through and make additional changes.
I apologize if you're gonna get to this, but I keep waiting to come here.
Go for it.
Where do you put open house information so it shoots out to the other, you can't do it in the public one?
Correct. So that will be after you take it live. Let me sign in. If you guys want to give me, does any other questions on this? And then I'll sign into my office account. I can try to show you that on some office listings.
Okay. Because I have one listing and I could not figure it out.
Anyone have any questions? Yes. Okay, let's hop over the question we had in the room. How do we enter open house information? No, I want to log in as a different person. I have multiple logins. Come on, let me do it. Thank you. Sometimes you just have to get like really direct with MLS guys. And those around you might think that you're a little crazy, but don't worry about it. MLS is your friend. Ever changing and growing and great. Okay, now I'm logged into our office account on the Plaza. I'm going to go in and to input. And then I'm going to let Tanner be our guinea pig. So he's got this active one. I'm not going to make any changes or save anything, Tanner. But okay, so when you go into your MLS, you're going to go to my listings again, or you can go to input, just like we did before. Remember how when I had that one that was work in progress, it was just one drop down. I didn't have to select an agent. But you're going to go to input would be the easiest way sometimes to get there. And then you're going to select the listing that you want to add the open house to. You do have to be live, active in the MLS to do so. And then this is what the modify property looks like when you are active in the MLS or in a show for backup or pending status. Here you have the ability to click open house/tour. You see that? And then you're going to go, the screen will populate, and then you're going to be able to select, is it a broker tour or public? Broker tour, meaning like an agent tour on Tuesdays. You know how a lot of areas will do that on Tuesdays. Both of them are going to show up to the public and syndicate out to Zillow and realtor.com, in which you may have the public show up to your agent tour. So be prepared for that. And then you get to enter your date of when said open house is. Start time. Oh, come on, Elizabeth. We've got end time. And then status, active. Okay, you could put your name here for your agent broker tours. You're gonna wanna, typically you're gonna put your name here just because it's common courtesy to others so they know who it is. You got a good, this is why it's having a good reputation is a good thing, guys, because then sometimes people will come because they want to support you. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know. I've never known if this is what gets streamed out or if this is what gets streamed out in that report that you do for the open house or agent tours that you can run. So I don't know what to put in here. You can test it out. Cool. So then you would just hit save. submit property again in order to have it update, and then it's gonna feed out to the others. I'm not gonna do that to Tanner because he's gonna be like having people show up for an open house and he's not gonna be there. He's not gonna be happy. You can also do more than one at a time. So if you were having an open house on Saturday and Sunday, you can enter them at the same time. This is also what you need to do if you're holding a house open for another agent. Be sure and say, hey, did you enter it in the MLS? And then you can go check to see if they're being honest or not. You can show you real quick how you can do that. Not that anyone ever not be honest, but if you want to just verify because you're investing your time and you want to verify that they actually did it. I'll show you in a minute, like at the end, okay? So let's stay on this screen. I'm not going to get distracted by a squirrel. Okay. This is also where you're going to go in and make modifications to the listing as things change in as things change. So let's say that you're accepting a offer. We talked about our statuses before. You're going to go to show for backup if your seller is actually willing to show the property for backup contracts. If your seller says, Elizabeth, we'll take a backup, but I do not want to open my house up anymore. I'm exhausted. We've been out of our home for 3 days. You're going to go straight to a pending status. Okay. But show for backup communicates that you're willing to accept backup offers, but they do have to be willing to show the property. Not immediately. They do have to be able to like, okay, tomorrow they could come through. They wanted to look at it. But the way that you're going to do that is if we're going to click on change to pending. And again, I'm going to be very careful. I'm not going to do this because I don't want to mess up Tanner's listing. You're going to state your effective date of your contract here. And then this is where you're going to specify, I guess this is different, guys, any of the different things here and click submit property. And that's what's going to change it. Okay. Cancel input. I get so anxious messing with other people's listings. Okay. Let's say that the same thing for any of the different statuses. Okay. You're going to input that effective date each time. For price change, let's say that we've gotten the ability to get the seller to modify the price because we did not, unfortunately, nail it when we went on, which just, it happens, guys. You'll just come in here. You need to get it in writing from your sellers that you're doing a price reduction. And yet you'll just go in here, hit change, change the price in this field and hit submit property. Expiration date. Again, if you needed to change, we've already done all of these things correctly, so we don't need to do anything with the map pen. If you're going to change your expiration date, there is a modify to the listing agreement form that you will fill out and have your client sign for you to extend the listing. Okay. You'll start to get emails and notifications that your listing is going to expire soon. This is a very time sensitive thing. So you get that signed, you come in here, just change the expiration date and again, submit property. The reason it's time sensitive, it's very important. It expires. So let's say that this on the 20th is the date it expires. So on the 21st of August, this house would go to an expired status. And what that means are there are a lot of agents that pay good money to get reports of all the expired listings. And then they start at 7 a.m. on the day that it goes to an expired status, calling those homeowners. And so the times in which you accidentally let it go, you're going to get a phone call from your seller and they're going to say, why am I getting a gazillion phone calls? Also, they're fair game at that point. So if they're in an expired status, you are not protected and someone else can come smooth talk them into, well, Elizabeth wasn't getting it done. How about we have a conversation about what I could do to get your house sold? So don't put yourself in that position. Pay very close attention if you do need to extend your expiration date. Same thing for, we had a question earlier. I saw something that went into withdraw. So let's talk about that withdraw status. Again, withdraw means you still are under exclusive buyer or exclusive right to sell. So you're still protected as their agent. It's just not being listed for availability in the MLS to be shown or to be sold. Now, if somebody says, Elizabeth, I saw that you had this listed for sale for 1.375 and you withdrew it. And I have clients that saw it and they've now come around and they want to pay you 3.75 for it. Will you talk to your sellers? Will they please sell? They could still buy it. It's just I'm protected in a withdrawal status. They have to use me. Okay, makes sense? The difference with a canceled status. On a canceled status, and there are times where it went on the market and you forgot to change that it was PreMLS for the 7th and you forgot to change it. And so gosh darn it, you woke up the 7th, but really your sellers aren't wanting to take it live until the 10th. What do? I'm getting all these phone calls. The sellers are getting phone calls. People are showing up at their house. If you cancel it, No, and take it, back into the MLS and get your paperwork all correct. You have to have a cancellation signed by your sellers to cancel it. B, I would make sure that you also have, before you hit cancel, you've got signed documents showing a new exclusive right to sell for the new date, right? Because legally you have to have all that in place. But if you put it in a cancel status, even if you take it active immediately again with new paperwork, right? It's going to show up as canceled to some of those agents that are like sharks and that are working those expireds and those canceled. And your client may very well still get a gazillion phone calls. So be prepared for that and note that that is coming when you're making your decision on whether or not you're going to cancel or just try to modify and work with what you've got. Does that make sense? Correct. Correct. It eventually goes to expired on the original expiration date of the agreement. Yep. That would be something, yes, that would be good. I mean, that would be an option that you would, yes. And a lot of times that gives you the opportunity to tell a story of like, hey, we accidentally went live and we weren't supposed to. They're just finishing up a little, it'll be available on the 10th, kind of a thing. So it gives you the ability to tell a story. All right, I promised you guys I would show you where you can go search for open houses and or to check to make sure. So under the search feature, are any other questions on the listing? And then I'll go show you guys this.
Well, I have one question on the listing. So
Yeah.
you keep saying save event complete, and then the day of, so you've been working on it for a while, the day of, you're ready to go active. There must be, you go to modify it and hit submit or something.
Yes, I'm going to keep using Tanner's. So Tanner has this one that's a work in progress. Okay. Well, maybe I don't. That's kind of like Elizabeth. Let's look at Elizabeth Sadie. There we go. Elizabeth Sadie has this work in progress. And so day of, I would sign in and that would just be in my drop down menu. Okay. Because I'm in the office account right now. And so I'm going to go to residential. And then here at the bottom, I'm going to just hit submit property. Okay. So, but otherwise I can keep going in and just say save as incomplete. All right. You are always welcome to sign in, go and look for those open houses under search. You'll click open house and then the date. And this is where I would, if you're holding a house open for someone else, it's okay for you to go in and check to make sure they've entered it. Because otherwise what will happen is you're going to show up for your open house and they'll be like, why is no one coming? Why is there no traffic? So this is where you can look that up. It's the same place you can go look up for agent tour on Tuesdays. So you would just put in the date for like this coming Tuesday, put in the Tuesday, and then any criteria that you want to enter, and then hit results, and that's going to show you all the different properties. Let's see what today's Friday, guys. There better be some open houses in here, right? Like agents out there working it. People, I know I got agents in my office on the plaza that I coach that are in the top 20%. That they do 2 a weekend because they're serious about growing their business this year. Okay, but I wanted to show you there's 375. Wow. If I'm trying to better improve my knowledge of a certain area or certain price point, I might say I want to just see the ones that are 400 to 600 in Kansas City, Missouri. So you're entering whatever criteria it is. And then when you hit your results, guys, you've got a couple different displays that are different when you're searching on open houses or agent tours. And that's where you can go to this display and select detailed with photo. As an agent, this is what I often will use for agent tour, so I can see because it lists who the representative is. So Miss Kelly Becks, which is one of your guys' agents here in Overland Park, is holding it open. But that's a great way as an agent because it shows you the time, date, and who's holding it open. And if there's refreshments, I mean, that's important on Tuesday agent tour. Are they serving me lunch? I'll prioritize where I'm going. Now, and then if you're sending it to a customer because you want to print, sometimes that's always nice to do if you've got clients that are early in the process and you say, hey, here's my card, give it to the agent holding the house open. That way you're protecting your agency and yourself, but you could go in and do a customer detailed with photo. And that's going to take out the agent's name. Does that make sense? You can select all, do your little print thing again. But if you're ever holding a house open, I would totally go in and make sure that it's listed in the MLS here. And you guys are welcome to go pull your own open houses and go to the houses and do your own research on the area if you're trying to get a better idea of what that area is or you've got a listing coming up, it's a great opportunity. All right, guys, that's what I got for you today. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us. And any questions at all for anything outside of today's subject? All right, I appreciate you guys.